Now, should, and just as importantly, can house price rises be capped at 5%? That's the proposal from the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors to stop the housing market overheating.
The idea of a limit has been tested in a number of countries, including Canada, where the new Bank of England Governor, Mark Carney, was previously governor. And it is, the RICS insists, needed over here.
What we want is a sustainable market as much as possible. We recognise the market will always reflect demand and supply, but there's no doubt that in the past there have been occasions in the UK, but certainly if we look at the recent experience in the US, there's a huge amount of volatility in the market.
And a peak begets a trough.
And we move from bust to boom, back to bust again, and that helps no one.
Well, with us here in Westminster, Henry Pryor. He's a former estate agent who now runs a bespoke buying service, and Anne Ashworth, the editor of the Times Bricks and Mortar section, joins us now from the paper's headquarters in East London. Anne Ashworth, I still haven't heard anyone give a clear explanation of how you can put a cap on house prices. How do you do it?
Would do is they would be like a brake, a road bump as they call it, so that there would be limits on the amount that you could borrow relative to the value of the house or to your earnings. That seems to be how it would work, and there are some various international parallels, including the Gangnam area of Korea. Would you believe it? Where those kinds of limits have been imposed. We don't know whether it was successful or not, but it has been done elsewhere.
But I don't understand how that affects the increase in value of the house, because mortgages are always guaranteed on the size of your deposit and what your income is.
Yes, you see, there you start to unpick some of the holes in the argument. And as the RICS itself admits, the whole move would be socially divisive. First of all, what would you do? What about the people who get a huge amount of money to buy a house from the bank of mum and dad? Would that lending be covered by these limits? And also, let us not forget that a huge amount of transactions in the housing market at the moment are cash only. Would they be covered by these rules? Would the whole house buying process be so tightly controlled that every single bit of finance for a house purchase there would be curbs on that?
Henry Pryor, it does seem as though there are two sorts of arguments in all of this. On the one hand, we've got RICS coming out and saying, look, this needs to be capped. We need to try and put a cap on housing price inflation. And on the other hand, you have the Chancellor saying there isn't a bubble, dismissing any problems. What is the truth in there? People who've got homes and are concerned about it, people who want to buy homes, want to know whether there is a bubble and if this is going to help stop that bubble bursting.
Well, I think we can reassure everybody. As Anne says, it would be extraordinary if we were to be thinking or considering of taking our financial model from gangman-style economics from the Far East. It's a slightly tongue-in-cheek suggestion, I suggest, but it underlies an important element, which is that, as the Governor himself was saying in front of the Select Committee yesterday, it's important to keep an eye on house prices and on house price inflation. But I think where the RICS have perhaps not spent as much time as they might have done is on checking what the political windsock is saying. I think that the Chancellor, George Osborne, and Vince Cable are all thinking of trying to ramp house prices in the run-up to the 2015 election. At the end of the day, they want to see more house building, they want to see more people being able to afford houses, and I don't think they're going to pay a great deal of attention to this particular initiative, however amusing it may be for us in the business.
And as someone involved in selling houses, buying houses, is it the case that, you know, the higher the price, the better?
No, it's not. What we want is a stable market. What we'd like is a market that is relatively predictable, that those buying a house, whether it's in Chelsea or in Carlisle, can have some understanding and some expectation about where they're going to find their house and what it's going to be worth perhaps in 5 or 10 years' time. Boom and bust is not a great idea, but I'm afraid that there are slightly better ways, rather more effective ways of trying to control the housing market.
And Anne Ashworth, whilst you might be broadly supportive of these suggestions from the RICS, would you not say that perhaps a one-size-fits-all wouldn't really work? For example, the model here in Great Britain, where we have this huge divide and separation between London, prime location market here, and places like the north of England, where you've seen a decline in house prices.
I'm sure some people are listening to these proposals and they're absolutely baffled. As the Governor of the Bank of England himself has said, in some locations there's been no meaningful recovery in house prices. And we need to start thinking about supply. We're always trying to solve the wrong problem in the housing market. The key issue facing the housing market and the nation at the moment is the lack of supply of houses, and that's what we should be thinking about, not tinkering around the edges of the mortgage lending system.
OK, I just want to ask you both briefly, should you put your savings and your borrowing into bricks and mortar right now? What do you think, Anne?
I am a not all your eggs in one basket kind of person. We all need a roof over our heads, but as one sage person once said to me, you should never borrow so much that your mortgage is your moral compass, that you will do things to repay the debt on your house that you don't like in yourself.
Henry Pryor, Anne Ashworth, thank you both very much indeed.